Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Your Disabled Joy. My name is Nico and I use he, him pronouns. I'm a white man with wet, parted blonde hair, large brown and blue spectacles, and a dark t-shirt seated in front of a blurred out background. And like about 25% of the US population, I'm disabled. Non-disabled individuals might see our lives as tragic, pitiful, sad, but I don't know, guys. I've been disabled a pretty long time now, and I think there's also room for disabled joy. However, the disability community, both here in the US and internationally, is massive. It has as many opinions as it has members, which is why I've asked my friend Zach here with me today to talk about disabled joy. Hi, Zach. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me today. I'm doing fine. I am a Middle Eastern male with black hair, wearing a yellow t-shirt with a non-blurred background. And as you can see, there is a picture of a painting by Keith Haring on my wall.
Fantastic, Zach. Thank you. Can you share a joyful memory with us? This could have to do like with your disability, or it could be totally separate. Either is valid.
Well, I first moved. I used to live in East Harlem,
Okay.
and I first moved to the Upper East Side a couple of years ago. In fact, this July is going to make 2 years. And when I moved, things really changed for me because I had to learn how to really be independent because I live alone. And one joyful memory I have, it's not one, it's many, but I learned how to cook.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
you know, I believe you are what you eat. And as much as I love to eat out, I know that they're not always the healthiest options, or the healthiest options that are available aren't always the cheapest. So I love to cook. So I have many memories of cooking not just basic meals for myself, but full meals for myself, and really feeling accomplished that I could do something on the side besides my work in politics and policy.
Zach, thank you. That's incredible. That's a victory that I think would really resonate with a lot of disabled people, and with me as well. Growing up as part of a fairly typical nuclear family, I never really got the chance to cook when I was a kid. And then when I couldn't go home for a holiday dinner during the pandemic, I got to cook for myself, and I also experienced that like sense of accomplishment, the rush of victory, and things like that. I do want to recognize that some people who are disabled might need like pre-cut ingredients or things like that due to like, I don't know, poor manual dexterity or poor like muscle coordination or something. Is that something that you've had to use as well?
Well, I appreciate you recognizing that, not just for me, but for the other people listening to this. When I first moved, I used those services for about a month, and I really quickly realized that they just weren't the healthiest because they were pre-made. So I had no idea what I was putting in my body, despite the fact that it had, healthy on the label, and I could even read and pronounce the ingredients. I knew I couldn't continue consuming those types of foods. They were the frozen chef made, you put them in the microwave for a couple of minutes type of food. And,
Okay.
I realized that I couldn't just keep consuming that because I didn't know what the long-term health effects were. So one day I just went to the store, bought a couple of ingredients, and made my first meal, which was okay. It was chicken with or actually pasta with spinach and chicken. So it was simple, but it was impactful because it was good for my health.
Fantastic, Zach. Thank you. So how has your disability impacted or intersected with how you pursue joy, how you pursue your own happiness?
Really, to me, it's all about adapting to my surroundings.
Okay.
Um, because when people think of accomplishments, they think of things that took a long time, and you climbed this mountain to get to this goal. But really, um, and I know for even for people with the same disability as me, my disability is cerebral palsy. They have different experiences with the same disability that I do.
Yeah.
So for me, an accomplishment might be, or finding joy might be going down the steps in the subway, which are not easy to navigate at all. 25% of the subways in New York City are considered accessible. And even those that are considered accessible, the elevators aren't always working. So navigating a subway with or without an elevator is where I find joy, because it's not always about getting to the destination, but it's about the journey in between. And it might seem simple, but for me, somebody who loves to work, getting there is where I find joy, because I realize it's not easy for everyone. Even able-bodied people have a difficult time.
Yes, that's true. Zach, thank you so much for pointing this out. I have lots of friends in New York City. New York is my home state, actually. And I often hear about these pretty deplorable subway conditions for folks who use wheelchairs, folks who might have limited or different mobility needs. And it's not great. I'm in Philadelphia now myself, and a lot of those same problems we see here. And we don't have, half the subway system that you guys do. Thank you for your answer. Zach, it sounds like you've had a lot of disabled experiences, and so have I. So I'm going to ask you a question that's actually very difficult for both of us, because we have to pick just one thing that we want everyone else to know about disabled life and about disabled quality of life.
I would say that it seems like everything is an obstacle at first. But your quality of life depends on how you grow with the life that you're given. This could include factors such as your environment, your education, what your experiences with healthcare or transportation are like. So your quality of life really depends on how you grow and how you adapt. Now, I understand that it's easy for me to adapt, but it's not always easy for other people to adapt. And I've had some people ask me, why do we have to adapt? And I understand that. So to that, I would say, advocate. Always advocate, because your quality of life doesn't have to be set in stone. It can change. There are many factors that can make it change. And I would always say advocate for yourself. I know it's important for me to understand where my body's limitations are, even in the smallest sense, because to me, the angle of my body is what matters. It depends on how I get around, how I travel. It could be just from walking in the city to holding on to my counter in the kitchen to go to my couch. So anything like that really shapes my quality of life. And if you have to ask for assistance, you shouldn't be afraid to ask for assistance. If you know your body, then you know where you can push your body further, and you know your body's limitations. And for me, I discovered my body's limitations and where I can push further from my experiences and how my quality of life has evolved as I got older.
Zach, that's fantastic. Thank you. I think there's a lot of really valuable lessons, not only for non-disabled people who might listen to this answer, but also for disabled people. As you say, always advocate for yourself and remember that your quality of life is not set in stone. There's another discrepancy too, though, isn't there, which is that resource allocation can really have a big factor in dictating what your outcomes are going to be. Someone who lives in a fairly urban area that is connected to lots of different service providers, or who might have a better financial standing, their disabled outcomes might be a lot better than someone who lives in a poorer town or a rural town where there aren't many service providers and are fewer resources. So there is that difference as well. Zach, I want to thank you for talking with me, sharing your perspective, and sharing a bit about yourself as well. My last planned question is one that I actually ask all my guests, regardless of project, and it is this: is there a cool thing or a recent win that you're celebrating that we can name and celebrate along with you? Or if not, what cool things are you involved in? If you want to connect with people, or if you have a big online presence, where can people find you online? Zach, this is your chance to be your own cheerleader, to brag about yourself. So I really want to hear it. Go ahead, promote yourself. Stand up on your soapbox.
Well, my answer actually is piggybacked off of your last question. So in terms of resource allocation, this is why I'm involved in policy. This is why, or rather how I began to understand the intersectionality of disability and education, disability and environment, disability and healthcare, disability and transportation. Because even though I was born into a world where I always had resources available, I still had my struggles, if I may use that word. I still had my struggles in education, with transportation, as you've heard, with my environment, in healthcare, having to do with the treatments I received because of my disability. So I really began to understand and appreciate the policy process, and the intersectionality of disability and policy. With that said, I am very politically involved. I worked with my community board to pass a resolution in support of a bill that would end some minimum wage for people with disabilities, because people with disabilities, even though there are so many opportunities available to us in terms of work, many of them still get paid below the minimum wage. And there's a bill in the New York State Assembly that would end that practice. And I worked with my community board to pass a resolution in support of it. And I recently traveled to Albany to advocate for passage of this bill. And I am working with someone in the legislature to get this bill out of committee, and get it on the floor for the upcoming session.
That's incredible, Zach. Thank you for that work. I did not think I would hear my old stomping grounds name today, but I did. I lived in Albany for 2 years. Fantastic. Zach, it's an honor to make your acquaintance, and I feel it's also an honor to have had this conversation with you. Thank you, and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate the time. Thank you for the conversation. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's where all of my information is. So please get to know me, and I look forward to further conversation.
Audience, tune in next time, and remember, I'm rooting for you.